Right, are we ready to make a start? We might as well make a start promptly. Thank you all for coming. I'm Simon Carswell, Chair of the Licensing Committee. I don't believe there's any members of the public present, but if there are, welcome. Today's meeting will be run using the webcasting system on Teams. Committee members and key officers are physically present in the John Meikle room. Is it Meikle or Michael? Meikle. You say Meikle. Other elected members and officers may physically or remotely join the meeting. If you are online, welcome. And if you could, if you're speaking, put your camera on so we can see you, but keep your cameras off otherwise. Thank you. I don't know why there might be a slight delay between agenda items because we're going to race through. Your agenda pack is on mod.gov. When you're invited to speak, could you clearly state who you are for the benefit of anybody who's listening to a meeting so they can identify who is speaking? And the meeting is recorded. And could you refer to page numbers in the agenda? Right, to start off with, we'll do apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair, apologies received from Councillor Andy Soughton and Councillor Tony Robbins, who's here via Teams.
Thank you. It's not too bad a turnout today. There are some missing, I've noted. Minutes from the previous meeting, pages 9 to 12. Does anybody wish to make any comment on the minutes, or are they happy with them? All good. Can I have a proposer? Thank you, Peter. Seconder? You weren't there. Were you there? Your second. Marcus was second. All those in favour?
Thank you.
That's all right, Tony. Thank you. Okay. Brilliant. Any declarations of interest? No. Good. Thank you very much. Public question.
Probably on the record, but as soon as I wasn't speaking today, I am a member of your Council.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yes, as we may be speaking about, as we're speaking about the Oval. Thank you very much. Public question time. There are no members of the public, so we'll move on. Later on in the meeting, not at the beginning, we may wish to exclude members of the public and make it a closed meeting, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Okay. Do we need to do that, don't we? That's later. Okay, thank you. Right. The first item on the agenda, which I've gone past, is Hackney Carriage rank positions in Yeovil, which is pages 13 to 24, and I think, is Mr. Timms going to speak on that?
It is, Chair, yes.
Thank you. That's you.
It is, thank you, yes. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Ian Timms, and I'm currently the Yeovil Refresh Project Manager for the Council, so delivering a range of regeneration projects in Yeovil Town Centre, and this particular item is an element of the transport work that was being done or is being done in the town centre there. So I'll just run you through the report briefly. I won't read through it all, but as I say at the start of the report, this does conclude a review of the positions of the Hackney carriage ranks in the town centre, and there are a series of appendices which show those in map form, which I think were attached to the agenda. So for members who aren't au fait with the geography of Yeovil. So as I mentioned as well, the process has become a bit drawn out, what with one thing and the other, and so this is the first sort of opportunity to report back to the committee on the findings and the work that's been done. The recommendations are there. I'm not entirely sure what the protocol is now, whether I can recommend those or one of the members recommends those, because I haven't presented to a meeting for a year or so now. So
I think you can go through the recommendations, and then if you go through the recommendations, and while you're doing that, I'll take advice as to whether.
Okay, thanks. So the issues for consideration then are whether the Silver Street rank should be moved despite the lack of support for the proposal from the consultation responses received. And the second issue is to consider adoption of the remaining rank proposals in accordance with the content of the report and the original report to the relevant South Somerset District Council meetings back in December 2022, which were referenced in the appendix. So the recommendations are to retain the Silver Street rank in its current position, and the second recommendation, 2.3, is to agree the provision, removal and retention of ranks as stated in section 3.5 of this report, proposals B to H. So it's a group of smaller ranks and the nighttime rank. So those are the two recommendations. So I won't go through the background in detail, but yeah, as the report says, I'm sure members have gone through it. A review was carried out. That was in accordance with the relevant pieces of legislation, and the consultation was carried out with the required groups. The proposals cover all of the Hackney ranks in Yeovil, so they could have update and refresh the rank positions within the town centre. Sorry, yeah, it doesn't cover anywhere else other than the town centre. And the original concept was to sort out the kind of main daytime rank, the daytime ranks which drivers use, and also to rationalise the nighttime ranks, so around the current nightclub in Yeovil, which is in the eastern end of the town centre. So those proposals, so this report sought to do that, and then we did consult with the relevant bodies. So moving on to section 4, which is the consultations that were undertaken. As you'll be aware, we were required to speak to the police, which we did. Went through the proposals. And I think most of their commentary back was just about logistics and legalities and so on. There wasn't any particular issues, although they were supportive of the establishment of a nighttime rank in Stars Lane car park, which is something that had been historically used informally by drivers picking up in that area. And it was welcomed in that it would rationalise that response there. It is covered by a CCTV camera, and it is something that drivers have historically used, as I say, in the past. So the idea of doing that was welcomed. The second kind of group which we obviously needed to look at was the accessibility groups, and that was arranged by the Council's Equalities Officers Group. And we did do an audit, and that actually ran on through until October last year. We walked through the town centre. There was a team of people with different disabilities, mobility issues, and their recommendation effectively was not to move the Silver Street rank, which is included in the report here. We also obviously engaged the Hackney carriage drivers. There wasn't a massive response from them, but they did raise a number of issues. Their preference is obviously for that rank to stay there. They didn't raise Silver Street. They didn't raise any issues on any of the other ranks at all. They did also raise some issues about whether, because the movement of the rank would mean it would be on the right-hand side of the road, not the left, whether there was an issue about passengers leaving a vehicle from that alternate side. I've been unable to find anything in the legislation or any definitive case law to suggest that's an issue, but it certainly was raised by them as a concern. And that was also something that the accessibility team raised about people with wheelchairs and mobility issues leaving from those different sides of the vehicles. But as I said, haven't been able to locate anything definitive that suggests that that is a particular issue. So that really is, in conclusion, is the piece of work that we've done. That there isn't any strong support. The proposal was to move the Silver Street rank into Princes Street. There doesn't appear to be any strong support for that, but there also doesn't appear to be any particular. So it's kind of a middling kind of approach. So I've recommended that it stays in its current position. And as I've mentioned, the other proposals B to H, there was no specific feedback from any of the consultation or consultees on those particular positions. So on that basis, I presumed that nobody's got a particular issue with those. There's no other way to elicit responses from individuals than to do that. And it was advertised publicly as well, but again, we didn't receive any responses. So that, in conclusion, is the report. And as mentioned in the presentation, recommendations are at 2.2 and 2.3.
Thank you very much. Before I open up to members, can I just ask, on the consultation, which you had limited response even from the Hackney carriage drivers, did you follow up the initial request so that if they can't say, we didn't know about this, and
Yeah, the licensing team got in contact with all of the registered Hackney drivers. We sent them a sort of letter format, all of the proposals. They did come back to us. We did make a response, although it was, earlier on, much earlier on, in the middle of last year. We wouldn't expect anyone to say anything different other than we don't want that rank to move. So we did try a secondary letter, but we didn't get anything from them. I mean, we could go back to them again, but it's quite difficult to elicit a response. I guess they're all busy, but yeah.
And just finally from me, I know the centre of Yeovil, but I don't know it since it's been revamped. Has that had any effect at all on the taxi ranks, or was that the initial rationale anyway for looking at it? But yeah.
Yeah, so the initial rationale was to try and remove traffic from the borough, High Street and Silver Street entirely. Following a lengthy piece of work, it was decided to retain the buses in that area, and the taxi rank movement was a sort of additional part of that work. So there is now less traffic going through the High Street borough area because general traffic is now banned from that area following the work. So now we've now got buses, loading and taxis only, and emergency vehicles obviously moving through that area. So it has helped, but yeah, this proposal was also intended to kind of minimise the conflict between pedestrians and traffic.
Thank you. I'll move to members now. I know Tony has got a lot of local knowledge. Would you like to speak, Tony?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Chairman. Firstly, I'd like members to know that I am also speaking for Andy Saunton. He is 100% behind what I say now, and he's unfortunately away. But being a long-standing member of Yeovil Town Centre, I do know, I think, what I am talking about regards Yeovil Town Centre. Firstly, as the officer said, that the Yeovil Refresh, the aims of the Yeovil Refresh was to make the town centre traffic-free, making it a quality place for pedestrians, for the cafe culture and everything else which towns are going over to now. That was to remove buses and all vehicles. As Ian said, there was objections from the bus company as time went on. Amongst the COVID, they still wanted to run their buses in there, and much to the views of a lot of local people. But the buses are where they are now. Let me take you back to a little bit of history regards to taxis in Silver Street. And Ian will not be surprised now, or the officer will not be surprised now, when he knows I am going to disagree with him. Silver Street taxi rank used to be, many years ago, outside Marks and Spencer's in the High Street. It was moved when things were done with pedestrianisation and slabbing over Middle Street. I'm sorry, I'm going to be a little while saying what I have to say, but it has to be said, Chairman.
That's fine, Tony. That gives us a better picture.
Anyway, to cut a long story short, the rank was moved from outside of Marks and Spencer's on the right-hand side of the High Street, not the High Street, Middle Street, Upper Middle Street, around into Silver Street. At that particular time, we had mass protests, I will call it mass protests, from certain factions, disability users, saying that Silver Street was not a suitable place to have a taxi rank. It is on a slope. And remember this, it's on a slope, and the pavements are narrow where it was moved to. But it was moved. During COVID, and the works which started at the top of the town in Yeovil. A temporary, and Ian will correct me if I'm wrong, taxi rank was put into Princess Street, which is on the level, a flat surface, and a wider pavement. I would say half as much wide again, if not twice as wide. Correct, Ian? It's wider.
Is there or thereabouts? Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely wider. The town council was consulted on all these moves to start with, of keeping all traffic out of the town centre, as was the district council. And I've spoke to the ex-leader of the district council to clarify my facts, because they was also a member of the Yeovil Refresh Board, and the idea was to keep the town centre pedestrian free. Now, I will not be supporting this report and one other two elements with it also. If I can refer, if you don't mind, Chairman, 3.2 on the agenda item, which basically says what Ian and myself, I think, are sort of in agreement with. Okay, thank you. Then if you go to 4.3 on the report, and I'll give you a couple minutes to read that. This accessibility audit made it, well, I will read it if you don't mind, made a number of suggestions and recommendations around improvements to the existing town centre, environment, parking bays and Hackney carriage rank. I mean, the borough has been beset by certain groups of people always not being satisfied when there's change of what they wanted. The work on the Hackney carriage ranks made a number of points around markings, curves and positions. There was also consideration of rank positions which specifically focused on the movement of Silver Street to Princeton Street. The audit concluded that we would not recommend that Silver Street taxi rank be moved to this location, as it is a busier street with less curbside. Well, I would say there is more curbside in Princess Street, and it's on a flat level surface. And it also goes on to say it is also a more challenging route uphill. Now, Princess Street is on the level. Silver Street, if you know Yeovil, is on a slope like that. Now, you come on to 5.2 of the report. The consultation work was carried out in accordance with legal requirements, but received very limited response. Very likely, because the certain authorities in Yeovil and elements are fed up with the consultations on this, that and the other in Yeovil, and with the time things are taken, they just want to see things over and done with. But they have consulted and responded in the past, and since then I've spoken to the clerk of the town council to check my what I'm saying today is valid, and I've also, as I said, spoken to the leader of the district council. Come back to that 5.2 about the limited responses. However, key points about the safety and accessibility of the proposal to move the Silver Street rank remain valid. Well, it's on a slope, and the disabled factions forum in Yeovil many years ago argued against moving the taxi rank round there because of the slope and the not enough room. In combination with this, ideally, it says about ranks, I don't know where they think they got to a line onto the road, because the rank where it is in Princess Street on the right-hand side, and the officer will confirm that I am correct with that, they can align straight onto a pavement, which is wider and on the flat than what the one on Silver Street is. Enough on those. I will not be supporting that particular element of this report of moving the taxi rank keeping it where it is. I support moving it into Princess Street, which is on the level, which is easier for everyone to walk from the borough on a level keel right around the corner. I'm supportive of the police with what they say about their nighttime economy in the ranks in what we call the Stars Lane car park. But I am surprised, but also not for other reasons, that the police hasn't commented about a couple of other ranks in Yeovil. And there is, if you look on your appendices, your drawings, and I can't tell you what page, Chairman, you'll have to have a look and slide it across. But there is two taxi ranks up the top of South Street, just on the brow of the hill, and it's 2 bays, opposite the, what was the old Greyhound pub and the Globe and Crown. And neither of them are public houses now. If you look at that map, I don't know if you've got provision to call it up on the screen or not, but if you look further back down the road, you will see on the corner of Union Street on one side, there is a day centre where elderly people, residents go for meals and everything. And people come there with their vehicles and pick up wheels and meals. Quite often, South Street, right up to that junction, opposite the tyre place, just before the 2 taxi bays, is parked up legitimately with either blue badge holders, people picking up meals on wheels, or elderly people in the day centre. So there is a safety issue when you pull out of Union Street, which incidentally, the town council officers are on the opposite corner to the day centre. You pull out of the junction on Union Street, and you've got cars, about a dozen cars you can have parked in front of you. You cannot see what's coming over the brow of the hill. You have a job to pull out. You're on the wrong side of the road. You can't see what's coming. So really, those 2 bays on the top of South Street want removing for safety reasons. Now, I'm surprised the police hasn't picked that up. And yet, they may be too busy, you know, it's a job to know. But also, there is one other parking bay which needs to be removed, which is down on the corner of the 3 Chuffs, which is on the left-hand side. Ian knows where it is, outside the cottage cafe for the elderly and the people around here, like myself, who can remember the old cottage cafe there, where it is predominantly for pedestrians. Taxis have been allowed to use that in the past, but there is a one-off bay there on the left-hand side. That one needs removing. We've got to start thinking of the pedestrians who are walking into town centres, who were trying to get back into town centres and to use our town centres. And we know we're all struggling for footfall in towns. And I will answer any questions, Chairman, if you've got any. But apart from saying that I will not support the Silver Street rank where it is at this moment in time, or it might even be in Princess Street at the moment. Perhaps Ian can tell me where it's working. I try not to drive into town centre if I try to walk in. And it's, I would support, along with the ward division member, the taxi rank going into Princess Street. But I also support the removal of the 2 ranks, which I think is a road safety hazard, up the top of South Street, and the one where you turn right up the pedestrian part opposite what was the 3 Chuffs Hotel. That's it. I'll shut up now, Chairman.
Thank you, Tony. Can you just clarify for me? I've got the Brow of the Hill one, I've got the Silver Street Princess. Where's the last one you mentioned, the single one?
Where you've got the brow of the hill, yes, on South Street, I don't know whether you can scroll right anymore, and you get to the end of South Street. You can turn right. There is a little bay, one parking bay on the left-hand side, correct? It's Henford. Class, it's called Henford.
Thank you. Yes, I can see that. Ian, did you want to make any comments?
No, I completely understand Councillor Locke's comments, and I know their long-running comments and discussions that we've had over time. The only thing I would say in terms of the two bays that Councillor Locke has just suggested removing, obviously we didn't consult on removing them, so we would need to carry out, or you would need to approve a further consultation to seek the removal of the bay in South Street and Henford, if that was your wish. Because, yeah. But yeah, just to confirm, we didn't receive any particular commentary on them from the police, which, yes, whether it surprises you or not, I don't know. But nothing was received. They didn't have any focus on those two. Yeah, so that's the only comment I'd make. We would, you would need to, I guess, make further recommendations to us to carry out a further consultation on the removal of those two, if that was your wish.
Shall I
Thank you.
come back, Chairman? Why,
Yes, Tom.
why have we got to consult again when it's all right to put a recommendation in the agenda for the two at the top of South Street and the one at Henford?
Well, Ian will be able to answer that, but I believe consultation is part of the process if you're going to, which we've done with the other area.
Yeah, so the legislation is quite old and quite rigid, I think it's fair to say. So it requires you to get approval from the licensing committee, which is obviously right and proper on a set of proposals, take those to consultation, and it also has to go through the executive as well, and then come back to the licensing committee with a report on those proposals. So you end up with a relative lack of flexibility, I suppose. I understand the point that Councillor Locke's making. Unless the legal representative's got a different view, I believe we would need to carry out a further consultation if we wanted to remove those.
Leslie?
Chair, I know from some research that I carried out prior to this meeting that the issue of ranks, appointing and removal and revision is a matter for the executive following consultation which is required by the legislation. So the position as reported by the officer from a legal point of view is spot on. We need the brief, we need the consultation, and then we need to bring it back for a decision.
Thank you. And just to clarify, Mike, so we're making recommendations which then go to the executive for the final decision. Yes.
Two ranks, it will come back here and this committee will make its decision and that decision will be reported up to the executive as a recommendation.
Thank you. Marcus, did you want to say something? Of course,
Point
Tony.
on that, please. It does not, with taxis, does not and the licensing, does not the decision have to be made by full council? It used to have to be made by full council on the district councils.
No,
So,
this, Chair,
Has legislation changed?
if I might come back on that, that was part of the research that I was doing prior to this meeting, not in relation to this, but everything apart from fares and ranks in terms of Hackney Carriage and private hire licensing are matters for full council. It's just these two items, fares and ranks are not. They are the preserve of the executive.
Thank you. Thank the officer for that, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Marcus?
Thanks, Ian. Good to see you again, Ian. So, yeah, I suppose the motivation for this originally was to get traffic out of that area get the traffic out of the overall town centre. Obviously, with the buses still being there, that's changed the game slightly, I suppose. But would I be right in saying that, as we just found out, that moving taxi ranks is not quite as easy as maybe banning buses? So if in the future, if, say, we made this decision today to move Silver Street, so there were no taxis there, actually at a later date, buses could probably go as, if we were minded to, or there was a public will to, buses would maybe be easier to remove. Would that be correct?
Well, the buses are quite complicated as well. So there's a couple of factors in terms of the buses. One is the operators need to give consent, and there's a negotiation with the operators. If those services are commercially viable, then which they were at the time of the negotiation, there's a different discussion to if they are subsidised by the council. Obviously, the council, as the highways authority, has also got a view on it as well. So there's a number of different factors the council has to consider in conjunction with the transport operators. I think, whilst the taxi legislation is inflexible, it's probably more straightforward than attempting to move the buses. I say this from a position of having attempted to remove the buses for about 2.5, 3 years. There's obviously a range of technical things to look at as well on the highway. That was a piece of work we did to look at that. So I think it's quite complex is probably the answer. Sorry.
I did have a few questions, but I'll just stick to a couple. You mentioned, am I right in saying you had no members of the public that weren't Hackney, licence holders actually respond to the consultation?
We didn't, we just made a general, we made a general announcement that there was a consultation. There was no members of the public, and we only had 4 Hackney carriage drivers respond, even though we contacted them all directly via the licensing team. So it was very limited, or, but you ask people, they respond or not.
So to achieve what was set out at the start with the town centre refresh, isn't it, not regeneration, refresh, moving the taxi rank from Silver Street to Princess Street is what we were trying to achieve to start with.
Yeah, that was the original intention, as Councillor Locks outlined, to try and remove traffic from this upper area of the street. In fact, a number of compromises were made. For example, blue badge bays were retained in Middle Street, and the original intention was to completely pedestrianise that. So, it's been quite a long road, excuse the pun, in terms of trying to work out what the different mix is there. It is now back towards a more shared space environment, but there are, in different sections, numbers of different kind of vehicles, and some of the areas as well we've attempted to remove loading, but because of the topography of the ground, that's not been possible as well. So there's still a mix of traffic, although we have now, I think, successfully reduced it or minimised it as much as possible to make it easier to move around. Yeah, we would have wanted to do more, I think it's fair to say.
Can I just, so I can picture this, I do know Yeovil a bit. So Silver Street, where I'm going down then, the taxi rank is on the left. Is M&S at the top on the right? And down the bottom there was a pub, and there was also an estate agent's opposite. That's it. Okay, that is quite a slope on that road, actually. Yeah, okay, that's just for my own clarification. Princess Street, I'm not so au fait with. Is it Princess Street or Prince Street? Princess Street, the other, where it was proposed to move to. But you say that's a level road, Tony? It is.
Come off the hospital roundabout. As you come up Reckleford, you take the first left and you come around and you bear right and you come along Princess Street. And the parking is on the right-hand side, which is, and that is it. And while I am speaking, could the officer didn't clarify or say, where are the taxis actually using for a rank at this moment?
Yeah, so the taxis are currently using the Silver Street rank, as they're allowed to do, and it is well used. But as has been mentioned, it is on a slope, which is why the proposal was made to move it to Princess Street. But there's various trade-offs. So yeah, they are using that. And just to reinforce what Councillor Locke said, the position that we were proposing to move it to in Princess Street is the position that we used during the COVID outbreak, when the streets were sort of closed down for social distancing. So yeah. just to confirm what you said.
Diego.
Thanks, Chair. I don't know Yeovil, so, part of this decision-making for me is weighted by what division members have to say and what they explain. My question really is around the engagement consultation. On 2.1, you talk about a lack of support for the proposal to move Silver Street rank. I just wanted a bit more detail around that, because you've said you've had 4 Hackney drivers comment, 0 members of the public. I wanted to know what was the lack of support, what were the comments against that support, and how many comments as well, because if it's 4 Hackney drivers, for example, against it, I think there's probably a lot more drivers out there that didn't contribute, that may have felt differently. Not to say that's the case, but possibly.
Yeah, I probably should have added the word limited in this. There hasn't been a lot of commentary either way. Obviously, the statutory consultees, police, and so on have made comments, as was mentioned earlier. It was just the 4 Hackney drivers. One purports to represent everybody else, but there isn't an organised body in Yeovil as there is in some of the other towns. So, yeah, that was all we got really. So none of them supported it. They just felt it ought to stay where it was. And then obviously we've got the commentary from the accessibility team, which the council commissioned. So it's not massively conclusive either way. But I've just gone with what I've got in front of me really in terms of making the recommendation. Okay,
so I suppose that's fine. The reason I asked that is to understand what the Hackney drivers are potentially against, and I'm not any clearer. I can understand, I think, Councillor Locke's point of view. From my experience in Bridgewater anyway, without wanting to group anyone into any kind of, hockey or whatever, when you see people using taxis during the day, to be honest with you, a lot of them are elderly people coming into town to do their shopping, and they need space to come in and out. They need a steady place in which to stand to come in and out of the cab as well. So I'm conscious of that, and the comments Councillor Locke's made about the current positioning of the rank on Silver Street not being perhaps the most accessible for that, although recognising it's not just people with accessibility issues that get on a taxi. And I just wondered, therefore, as well, how much does the proposal kind of, and we talked about it, complement the larger vision around the Yeovil refresh? Just a bit more clarity around that as well, please.
I think it's, yeah. So yeah, the original intention obviously was to remove the traffic. The current rank though is closer to the shop, so it goes to the point that you just made, I think, about people wanting to be there. It's very close to Marks and Spencer's, which is very popular in Yeovil. So yeah, ideally, obviously, as little traffic as possible, but then, of course, we've got to make a consideration about service vehicles, buses, taxis, etc., that are getting people in and out of town who can't otherwise travel in there. So how much does it complement it? I guess in terms of the vision, we'd prefer to have moved it, but it's not going to completely compromise it by not moving it. So it's one of those things. It feels like it would be better positioned in Princes Street, but then it's also quite close to Silver Street, and people have grown used to it being in that position and kind of do use it. It is well used, for sure. We would be moving it around 150, 200 metres, which doesn't seem like a particular distance away from those current popular shops. That doesn't mean it won't, they won't go and something else might move in future. So we could reconsider that. So yeah, it's not particularly conclusive, I'm afraid.
Marcus, do you want to come back here?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, what Diego said about what goes on in taxis in Bridgewater. I mean, a question, I suppose it's for Ian. You might have to hand over to Tony to answer. In Yeovil, are the Hackney carriage drivers as possessive about which rank they're on? I think possessive might be the wrong word, but as enthusiastic about which rank they're sat on or where they're sat as they are maybe elsewhere, where there's more than one rank. I'm just thinking, because if you'd had a consultation about taxi ranks at the other end of my end of the county, I think you would have had a lot more than 4 consultation responses. You probably would have had protests, I would have thought.
Yeah, Yeah, not sure how to answer that question. As you'll know, I was once responsible for dealing with taxes in Minehead, and the proposal to move the rank in Minehead received some considerable responses, which I think you might just refer to. So I don't know. I mean, four objected. But I do believe if we move it, it will cause objection. But I guess I can't really. I don't know. The lack of responses when you is perhaps it tells its own story.
Can I just a bit more clarity as well? The Princes Street. So if I was coming up the High Street, where Denner's used to be, that's going up there, isn't it? So there's still shops along there, but it's not as central as Silver Street. Is that correct? Ish. Yeah. And Silver Street, is that now partially pedestrianised and it's only going to be taxis, buses, or is that still going to be?
I think so. I think it is a.
Westminster Street runs parallel to Princes Street.
So Princes Street comes down, you turn right into Westminster Street. To involve the traffic, you would turn left into High Street, Borough, and then down into Princes Street. As Councillor Locks just said, the only vehicles that will be able to get into Princes Street are rebadge holders coming through the end of Middle Street where they can park, and as I've mentioned earlier on, buses, emergency vehicles and unloading vehicles. So no general traffic through that area. That's been banned effectively through the application of traffic regulation orders.
Okay, and finally, what was I going to say? Do you think, to a degree, you've only had 4 objections, so one of the objectors was saying they were objecting on behalf of other taxi drivers, which we can take either way. But do you think one of the reasons is commercial reasons, in so much as when I used to come out of Carnaby's nightclub, the taxi rank was just,
On Westminster Street.
yeah. Oh, was it on Westminster Street? That one, was it? Oh, right, okay. Yes, it was, yeah. with the sticky carpets. Yeah, okay, I think I'm clear on that then. So, what we've got before us, if there's no other questions, yes, Hugh.
Chair, our colleague Rosaire asked a similar question I was going to ask actually, but what worries me is that we've got details of all these taxi drivers in Yeovil. Why don't we come up with the figure that there is, the Hackney drivers? If only 4 have spoken and 1 considers it's the chief, how many is there? Is there 10, etc.? You know, this is vital, knowing this figure, quite frankly. And the other thing, which I'm ever so glad that Councillor Tony Locke has highlighted it, is the flatness points for people to get on and off. It's not us ordinary people, it's people with units that they've got to put in certain taxis, or most taxis, to carry people about in. But you've got invalids, and if you're picking up on a hill, with the weather that it is changeable, flooding, snow, whatever, it's highly dangerous. So we ought to encompass that in our thoughts. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Hugh. Can we just confirm, do we know roughly the number of Hackney carriage drivers in Yeovil? Okay, we'll move on for that for a second. We'll come back to that. Mark.
You just asked through you, Chairman, could the officer answer, is it still proposed to make South Street, which is very integral to this, one way?
So we've completed the design on that, but we can't afford to deliver it at the moment.
The answer is yes. Thank you.
There is a proposal, but it is currently unfunded. So but the answer is that we would look to reverse South Street.
So I think what Tony's getting to, if the funding was there, it would be. Yeah, okay, thank you. Marcus?
Sorry to keep asking questions, but it's nice to have a subject we can get our teeth into. Question, obviously moving at the I suppose at the moment, Silver Street, the idea is to remove cars from there. So you're actually not gaining any parking spaces, you're just losing the taxi rank. But I assume if we move into Princess Street, we're losing particularly an amount of car parking spaces, and did the shops or businesses have a view?
Yeah, there would be a loss of that general parking, which is on the appendix. So I'm just trying to get it up to give you a flavour for that. It's sorry, it's disappeared, as the things always do. Yeah, so we would propose to keep the existing loading base. Obviously, we wouldn't look to impact that. But the general parking, there would be a reduction of 6 number spaces, general parking. But there is, we've had lots of discussions about the supply of parking. There is quite a significant mixture of on and off street parking in Yeovil, and I think we've argued from the project perspective in the past that there is quite an oversupply of it. In actual fact, local residents have a different view to us, though.
Okay, I probably wasn't listening properly. So Marcus was asking about the removal of the 2 ranks, was he, or one of the 2 ranks? Oh, you weren't. So you were. So the 2 ranks that are proposed to be removed when you're doing your initial proposals. So what's the rationale behind removing those? Or
which of the?
So that would be remove 2 car ranks in Stars Lane. Yeah. And remove the rank in Middle Street, northeast of Southwestern Terrace.
Yeah, I think the rationale for the Middle Street rank was that it's no longer needed, no longer used by vehicles, and there is already a nighttime rank to the rear of the Premier Inn, just around the corner in Old Station Road. So there's sufficient rank space to serve that area of town. The Stars Lane rank is in front of Chicago's, if you remember that premises. I don't know what it might have been called back in. And the feeling was that could be absorbed into the Stars Lane rank, so we could tidy up those kind of 2 areas, really. And I think anecdotally from the police, there have been some issues about the 2-car rank as well, where drivers had been, there've been some issues anyway, of not necessarily disorder, but some disagreements from drivers, and their preference therefore was for one long rank, which was obvious to drivers where they were in the queue. I'm trying to phrase that in there've been some confrontations there, so it was felt that one rank there would be a better mix than 2 ranks, which had been informally used. So it's just a cleaner and clearer proposition.
Thank you. And the one at Stars Lane, just again for me, is that where the Wimpy used to be? Going back a few years now. Sorry, Mike. That's fine. Okay, anybody else got anything else they wish to say? I think we've got 2 different opinions here, really. One is to go along with the recommendation, which is to retain the Silver Street rank in its current position, and the removal of the 2 ranks is the separate recommendation. We take the 2 recommendations separately, but there is really a counter proposal, I think, there, which is to move the Silver Street rank to recommend that we remove it to Princess Street from Silver Street. So how do we go on that? Do we vote first on the proposal?
Chair, just before you do that, I'm conscious that you asked me a question. Yes. I didn't want to not answer it. So you asked me if we were able to say broadly how many licensed drivers we have. So for the south area, which obviously is more than just Yeovil, there's in the region of 260 licensed drivers, Hackney carriage and private hire. As I say, we don't know necessarily where those people will work.
No, but I expect people from Crewe and Chard would, taxi and Hackney driver, would go into Yeovil quite often to drop off people from the surrounding town. So 4 out of 200 odd is not very many. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll do this in reverse order. So the recommendation, the first one is removal of those 2 smaller taxi ranks, which I don't think there's much controversy over. So can we vote on that one first for the recommendation go forward to the executive?
Yes, the 3.5G retain the safety rank that says in the proposal there, and retain that entry rank.
Remove the 2 car rank in Stars Lane, remove the rank in Middle Street. Is that what we're referring to, Ian?
Did we want to go?
Point 3.
We were to, because 2.3 is effectively 3. I'm with you.
Only want to go through each one of those.
Okay.
And then go to, so that's 2.
We'll do 2.3 first because we started. So 2.3 in effect is all the proposals in 3.5.
No, we don't do it. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Right.
Yeah, because it's
Chair, can I?
No, we're not because of the, yes.
So can I just clarify? I'd anticipated that Councillor Locke wouldn't necessarily agree with the Silver Street rank recommendation. So I did separate that one out from the others. So I grouped all of the others into recommendation 2.3. So the 2.3 deals with proposals B, C, D, E, F, G, H. But of course you can disconnect those and set up the recommendations in whichever way you feel is appropriate.
And A is now in 2.2, is that what you're
A
saying?
is in 2.2. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So if we could have a vote on 2.3, which is items B, C, D, E, F, G and H on 3.5 on page 14, which is agree the provision, removal and retention of ranks as stated in section 3.5 of the risk report. So which
G and H.
So I suppose what we're saying here is with G and H, which are to retain both those ranks, we could perhaps change the recommendation to retain with a view for reconsultation to remove them in the future? Something along those lines?
So, Chair, I used to write recommendations for committees because I used to be the lead licensing officer for West Somerset Council, so hopefully I can help you a bit with this. So my suggestion would be to you that you change recommendation 2.3, as I think Councillor Locke's just said, to cover B to F, so B, C, D, E and F. You have an additional recommendation which states that whilst G and H, as you've just said, are retained for the time being, you would request that further consultation is carried out on those with a specific focus on safety of the ranks. With a proposal to remove those ranks on safety grounds, yeah. So that would clean up that recommendation 2.3, so you've got two separate recommendations, and then obviously Councillor Locke has proposed an alternate recommendation, which is to remove the Silver Street rank, which was in any case the proposal that we consulted on. So you would be able to implement that without any further consultation, I believe, although obviously the legal representative can advise on that.
Okay, fine. So let's go to 2.3 first. And the recommendation is to agree the provision, removal and retention ranks as stated in section 3.5, but the report proposals B to F, not G to H. So can we do a vote on that?
What do you want to propose?
Proposer, Marcus?
Well, I'll ask Tony to propose, but...
Do you want to propose that, Tony?
Well, I'll propose that then.
Yeah.
If the legal officer is happy with that,
So you've got
yeah,
Peter, what Peter?
that's where there's no contention. I mean, I agree with it.
Peter's happy to propose anyway, so Marcus and Peter.
Yeah, fine.
Thank you, Peter.
Peter and Marcus,
Okay, all those in favour of that? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Do we actually have to put a proposal forward for the South Street and Henford rank? Yeah. So with South Street and Henford, which are items G and H, would be retain the existing ranks, but with a further consultation focusing on safety to see if we can look at the removal of those ranks.
We're say on advice from the officer that items G and H are to carry on in existence, but a consultation on safety grounds is to be carried out ASAP. With a view to their removal, as the legal officer has just said.
Yeah. Thank you, Tony. I think that's what I said, but...
Yeah,
anyway, Leslie, can you...
It's an emotive subject of the overall.
No, I understand that. Yes. Yes. Leslie, so do we have a proposal we can put to the committee?
And that is to retain G and H, but with a further consultation with a proposal to remove those ranks on safety grounds. And you'll need a proposer and a seconder.
Thank you. Proposer Peter, seconder Tom. All those in favour? Okay, super. Thank you very much indeed. So now we'll go back to 2.1, which we're going to, in effect, have it what A says, which is extinguish the Silver Street rank and relocate the provision to Princes Street. That's what we're going to vote on. Is everybody happy with that? Can I have a proposer for that? Okay, Tony. Tom will second. Okay. All those in favour? Good. Carried. Thank you very much. And if any members of the public ask, it's Tony's fault. No, but I think that's probably the best solution for... Yeah.
I know the area and I know the problems there. And I mean, the officer, Ian, knows that coming up South Street with the day centre there, opposite the town head, you can have a dozen cars on the left-hand side coming up there by the fireplace and then correct in. And you cannot see over the brow of the hill. Even the officer agrees it's a safety issue. And I am surprised that police haven't. We're where we are. Yes.
Thank you, Tony. Yeah, so I think that's probably the best outcome. So that's good. Thank you for your expertise, Tony.
G&H are retained for further consultation with a view to remove on safety grounds, basically.
Yes.
The rest of them, B to F, are agreed as the officer's recommendation, and A is also, as the report, to move the rank from Silver Street to Princess Street.
Absolutely. Okay, we are all happy with that? Good. Thank you very much. Okay, next item, there is something else I'm going to add on, but the minutes of the licensing regulatory subcommittee of, that's the one I haven't got with me. That's that one. Oh, where's it gone?
All of them and that one.
That one.
They're to note, all of them.
Oh, just to note, unless anybody else wants to make a comment on them. Thank you. And then, really, it's an item of any other business, I suppose. It's a matter being raised by a couple of councillors. We ought to go into closed session for this, I think. That's what I was going to say.
If you want to go in closed session.
I think we should. Leslie?
It would be wise to.
Yeah. Can we have a proposer for that? Tom?
Second.
Seconder. Marcus? Favour? Thank you.